brings decades of expertise in driving quality systems and continuous improvement. First of all, allow me to welcome you, Mr. Gujar. Thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you very
Yes,
much for
and
inviting.
thank you. And so we are going to cater to a bigger group, because here we are not only talking to the people who are attending the conference, but everybody else as well who's not attending the conference, to understand about the aspects which are necessary. My first question to you is that when we talk about quality by design, risk management is often at the heart of it, right? So, how can pharma teams identify risk early in the process design stage, and what best practices ensure they are addressed proactively rather than reactively?
Okay, so basically, when we said about quality by design, it's a systematic knowledge-based approach followed during the development of product, or you can say the identifying quality profile of a targeted product. So whether it is a
Right.
API or a formulation, and when we talk about the risk assessment during the product development, so this not only helps us to identify the uh, product risk associated with the product process and its life cycle management. It also allows us to identify the critical process parameters, critical quality attributes, whether it's a chemical, physical, microbiological, or other aspects of the product. So, quality risk assessment is a tool which can be used by a company during the development of any product, whether it is an API or finished formulation, to identify risk associated with the process of the product, testing of the product, logistic of the product, or
Correct.
entire life cycle management of that product when it is on the shelf at the retailer level or at the hospital level or at the patient level. And this can be done with the various tools. So you can use Ishikawa as a basic tool which we are using in the pharma industry for identifying a risk assessment at every stage of development. And this also plays a vital role when we identify risk associated with the product at various stages during the development. That gives us a smooth transfer of the product from R&D to the manufacturing. So, risk analysis is a tool which can be used for a smooth technology transfer of the product if it is used during the development. Like for example, I will give you example of a risk associated with the API molecule when development. During the development, if you do the risk assessment of a nitrosamine or the elemental impurity, your future queries with respect to the product life cycle management get avoided because the study has been done during the development itself. So whether risk is associated from the facility, associated from the supplier or the material, it can be taken care during the development itself.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
That does
and
make
then
sense.
proactively, if you do it proactively, you can link this risk associated with all your critical parameters like temperature, humidity, any mixing time is there. So everything can be considered during the risk analysis. Same way, risk assessment can be done for the critical quality attributes also,
Correct.
and it has to be done whenever there is a change suggested in the project or product. So every time a risk assessment can be used as a tool for the smoother development and transfer of the product to the commercial level.
Right. Right. So while we are talking about the QBDs, long time back I spoke with Rajendra Kumar Kasi, and he called it a two-edged sword, and that makes a lot of sense to me. But at the same time, when we are talking about QBD and risk management, we are planning well. Still, sometimes the deviations are possible. So, and deviations are costly, right? So, both in compliance and the
Yeah.
productivity terms as well. So, from your experience, how can real-time monitoring system be leveraged to not only catch the deviations faster, but actually prevent them and make the system even better?
So First of all, what is the deviation? It is an unforeseen event happen during the process.
Right.
So you can do online monitoring of deviations through two kind of thing. One is a proactive approach, another is a preventive approach. And you can do the automation in such a way in the process that all your predictive deviations can be taken care during the development, and proactive approach will avoid the deviation during the actual process happens. Then you can do the monitoring of deviation. Suppose any unforeseen deviation happens, so you can have a trend data of the all the deviations happens in the company. Then based on the trend, you can decide your proactive actions and kapas to avoid recurrence of such deviations in the future. So there are tools available now for the complete online monitoring. And then
Correct.
when you I talk about the proactive approach, like I can give you a simple example. Suppose you are manufacturing a product which is a what you call as a humidity sensitive, and if your HVAC system of the manufacturing area has a proactive tool within it, so any variation happen within the temperature and humidity, it can be automatically taken care by your HVAC system and will not have any impact on the product under manufacturing. So you can avoid the deviation by using the proactive tools. At the same time, automation can play a very good role in avoiding the deviation during the manufacturing and testing. So like you implement a paperless approach in the limbs. So your analyst does not have any kind of authorization to do the deviation during the testing, because your limbs take care of any kind of variation happens within the testing, and then automatically your deviations are avoided.
Correct.
If anybody wants to overrule the software or the automation, then it is not allowed because it escalates to your senior level.
Correct.
So
Right.
automatically your supervisor come to know that there is a something going to something happening which is not as per the SOP or not as per the procedure. So it will link to the deviation, and then you can avoid that deviation. And this can be implemented, I think, based on your study, your process, your facility environment, or your requirement. This can be implemented throughout the manufacturing, quality, QA, and other aspect of engineering also. And deviation proactively if you work as a team, because here what is most important is the CFT team. The approach of CFT team is also more important. So if everybody start thinking on what is his requirement as a proactive tool to avoid the deviation in his own system or process, and then collective data can be what you call evaluated for the implementation of suitable tools in the factory premises, because deviation is
Right.
something which is very costly. And I always follow the rule of 110 100. In case of deviation, 110 100 is a very simple rule. When deviation is identified by your internal person, the cost of repairing is 1 rupees or 1.
1 rupee.
When it is
Right.
identified by your internal customer, like marketing, logistic, or your CNFA, then cost of repairing is 10. But when it is identified by your regulators, the cost of repairing is 100, or maybe n into 100.
Right.
If
Right.
you follow this simple principle, I think with the proactive approach, you can do whatever possible within your premises or within your quality system to avoid the deviation or activate proactively and work on it and have a suitable kappa which will avoid the recurrence of deviations.
Right, right. No, thank you very much. That makes a lot of sense. And see, in the end of the, I will tell you what, that we ran a poll a few days back about that means, which line of department you would prefer to get automated first in your plant, right? The answer is always simple. That means everyone chooses quality and compliance as the priority, because we all know that how much data is there in quality, and how to
Yeah.
means, we want to make sure that the data is available, we have integration, we have integrity, So considering all of that, everyone suggests this particular point. So suppliers, the solution providers, are often the first link in the pharma quality chain in that case. Yet there are also some gaps that frequently appear while working with them. So what structured approaches or
Okay.
tools do you recommend for ensuring supplier quality?
Okay. So when we are talking about the supplier quality, for me, suppliers are my business partners.
Correct.
They are not only suppliers because
Right.
my quality of product, process, or the equipment is depend upon the supplier's quality. So what quality material he provides me, that helps me for my quality of my product, my process, my facility, everything is depend upon the supplier. And for me,
Very well
suppliers
said.
are not only my vendors, they are my business partners.
Correct.
So my systematic approach is with supplier lifecycle management is first of all do complete due diligence when you identify the supplier.
Right.
Second approach is do initial qualification with maximum possible way of doing the qualification. So it is not only the audit checklist, but go beyond the audit checklist to identify what other risks are associated with the supplier. Hmm?
Right.
Third is consider consider quality agreement or supply agreement as a critical tool. Derive that in such a way that all the aspect of supply quality is covered in your quality agreement.
Right.
Also, continuous improvement at supplier end is one cause in your quality agreement. Because what happens in current dynamic situation, the rules and regulations are getting changed every day.
Right.
And then
Correct.
if your supplier is not updating his own quality system or his own way, what is the sustainability of that supplier, whether he will provide you the material for next 10 years or next 5
Right.
years with the consistent quality? That is a bigger question, because my product, though I am having two or three supplier or alternative supplier development is another big program in any pharmaceutical industry, but still you need a consistent supply from every supplier.
Right.
So your quality agreement, use it as a tool for the basic development of supplier. Then
Correct.
get participated with your supplier in their development program. Because I have found out that many suppliers are not that kind of having an advanced technology or advanced rules and regulation known to their teams. So make a point, whatever gap analysis is done through the audit, hmm, you become a partner with the supplier, run a program with the supplier so that their quality will get enhanced automatically.
Right. Right. So they're not the
Then most,
solution provider, but they are working
yeah,
with you. Yes.
exactly. Then most important is like we have a annual product quality review for our products. So similar, based on the key
I think I'm losing you. I'm not sure
quality
if it is my.
review or have a review with suppliers.
Okay, I just lost the last connecting line because I'm not sure. I think it was either my internet or your internet. And
So I'm telling, so my so my key performance indicators of a supplier and monitor it on the
right,
regular basis.
correct, correct, right.
So if you
That
take
makes sense.
if you take a if you take a solution provider as a supplier, in case of software, how oftenly he is going through the change controls, whether that every change control is shared with you, what will be the impact of that change control on your own systems.
Right,
That is a one way of monitoring all kind of changes happening. At the same time, when we call about the supplier qualification in the basic raw material, so what will be the impact of my supplier changes happening at supplier end on my product quality? whether I have a risk associated with that on my product quality related with the nitrosamine, elemental impurity, or any other parameter in my product. So
Right.
that risk has to be evaluated whenever he shares any change control happening at their site. So supplier
Right.
lifecycle management is a very what you call it as a you can use it as a proactive tool, if it is done with the proper what you call it as a
Strategy
system in
and
the process, strategy, system in process, following the QMS process properly at the supplier end. And
right.
one more program I would like to run is the knowledge sharing with supplier.
Right.
So only if I'm increasing only or if I'm working on only my quality aspects, and if my supplier's quality aspects are not getting enhanced, it will automatically widen the gap between my quality aspect and supplier quality aspect.
Makes sense.
So
That
you
is
need to
very
have
well
a
said.
solution. So you need to have a solution to bridge this gap.
It has to be two-way communication.
And yeah,
Correct.
it's a two-way communication. Supplier also have to indicate you what are the changes he is doing at his end. At the same time, you also has to indicate supplier what are the expectation
Makes sense.
from him, and how he can implement the new systems, or how we can help them to implement the new system. And in
Right.
current scenario, you know that ESG has become a buzzword actually. So sustainability is a must for any company from the angle of future business.
Right.
And I think
No,
supplier
that's very
lifecycle management, yeah, and I
right.
think
About
supplier
time we
lifecycle
start
management
thinking
is
about
very
the
critical.
planet.
Yeah.
Yes, no,
Hmm.
I agree with
So I
you.
think,
So I think that means we can do a full session on the vendor qualification and how to work with the vendors,
yeah,
because
tell me.
we normally do a lot of sessions on the selection, but what you're saying is a lot to do with the management of the supplier, which is, I think, very
Exactly.
important. Sometimes the gaps could be at our end as well. With this talk, I'm sure that people can address that as well.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
if you have to share one actionable takeaway from our for our listeners, sometimes something that can start implementing tomorrow to strengthen the quality and quality by design and continuous improvement, what would that be?
So I would like to say that use the tool of risk assessment as a beautiful tool during your quality or development or design space during the product development. Identify all the risks associated with your process by using a tool. Simple tool like 5Y or Ishikawa can work. You don't require any high-end tool or high-end software implemented for risk assessment. Use a simple guideline like ICH-Q9
Right.
for the risk associated with your process, parameters, product, and start working on that, because risk assessment will provide you proactive way to identify the risk associated with your product, process, parameters, quality attributes. Even if you do this risk assessment when you are creating the facility, so that will give you idea about your facility and the risk associated with the facility. Even this can be done when you select the software, when you do select with any machinery. So we
Right.
normally prepare as per the qualification guideline, URS, then we go for FRS and everything. But have you do the risk assessment during that period? Because if you know the risk associated with your every aspect of the development, process, quality, facility, engineering aspect, then I think it will become a very uh, simplify the way of working for the organization. Now, somebody may think that identifying risk with everything, whether it is a job of quality, no, it is not only job of quality. It is a CFT team. It's a
Right.
cross-functional team. So I think team working in a team is very important here for identifying risk associated with every process.
Right.
And use a simple tool like a 5Y. Use a simple tool like Ishikawa diagram associated with every risk. You don't require
Right.
a very high funded tool or something very knowledgeable kind of thing. But I think risk assessment is a one way you can simplify your life in a pharma industry.
Correct. Correct. No, that is
And this
absolutely true.
helps and this helps the product life cycle management also becomes very easy. Your supplier life cycle management will also become very easy. You can avoid your deviations, you can avoid OS, you can avoid OTs proactively if you identify the risk earlier.
Right, right. No, I agree with you, and that is a very well thought of given advice. And at some point of time, I think we would really love for you to do a session with us as well on vendor selection and majority of the aspect focusing on the management, because we've been covering this session several times, but it has always been diverting towards the vendor selection than the management. The pointers that you have said, I think elaborating it further and discussing it with the delegates and telling them that okay, how they can actually manage, this is like a rule book that we can play with for telling it to the
Sure,
people attending. So
sure.
we would love to work
We
with
can
you
do
on
that. Surely we
that.
can do that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for your time today and sharing your valuable insight. And this topic, nobody else could justify it so well. Thank you very much for the live session today, Milind. And
Okay.
today's session showed us how identifying risks early, leveraging real time monitoring, and strengthening supplier quality can transform pharma manufacturing. The key takeaway: quality isn't one time achievement, it's a continuous journey. Keep building systems that are proactive and not reactive. Until next time, stay committed to designing quality that lasts. Thank you very much, listeners, and thank you very much, Milan, once again.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye.